Actually, I wanted to add something here. Let me lower this so y'all can hear me. But in addition to the Nas video, something that I didn't actually kind of talk about is I'm not necessarily mad that Nas wanted to like expand his fan base or something like that, or and make something that was a little bit more accessible. I'm not actually sort of angry about that because I think that with what he did, with with Illmatic, it's amazing. He's already sort of made the perfect street rap hip hop album. He'd already made something that's arguably the greatest hip hop album ever. So like he doesn't necessarily need to redo that album. I understand that. I'm not mad at that. I'm more angry, quote unquote, as a fan, at him doing the Escobar thing. I think that was misguided, honestly, because I don't think that he had to do all that. It made him seem like a chaser. Like instead of someone who was ahead of the curve, he is now, like I was saying, he's actually saying he's now a passenger in this rap shit, right? And letting Jay-Z almost take over. You really could see it. And Elliott Wilson was very, very smart to notice this back then. I just think that Nas could have done slightly more accessible versions of what he was already doing on Illmatic and Lost Tapes, for example. Try to figure out a way for you to be that philosopher, poet, who talks about regular stuff that's going on in the hood, the street, and maybe slightly more accessible way and things like that. But don't do the I'm Escobar and all that. All that shit was nonsense. You know what I'm saying? With the hooks and all that. All that stuff was silly to me. And I think that's what I'm getting at. I don't want to be one of them guys that's also like, trying to hold on. I don't own Nas. I'm just a fucking, I'm a listener at the end of the day, right? All this shit is like my opinion on shit. So I don't own Nas. I never made Nas's music. So whatever Nas wants to do is, of course, his prerogative, and him and his team's prerogative. I'm just giving you my perspective as a listener. I just think that they could have gone slightly different route with it and make songs that are accessible but still you at your core, right? Instead of being something else, right? Jay-Z does this really well. For a long time, I actually would say that Jay-Z, in a way, is the most consistent rapper I've ever heard in that regard, because Jay-Z made shit that never strayed away from who Jay-Z was as a person. Jay-Z has always told you he's a hustler, he's about that money. Do you know what I'm saying? And Jay-Z has always rapped about that in some way, shape, or form, and he's always shown you that, right? And that's why, to a certain degree, I think people look at Jay and say, hey, Jay's the greatest of all time, because the consistency of your persona and how it's reflected in the music is what makes Jay so fucking great, right? And it sucks when you're like listening to Nas and it's like he's kind of bouncing around these different, like, he's Escobar, and it just seems fabricated. And that's, again, when Jay-Z steps in and is like, you sat in your room and wrote up your whole life, right? That's where that ammo can come from, because you're talking about you're moving keys and all this stuff. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you know what I'm saying? And in a way, it almost invalidates everything that you spit on in Illmatic. That's the point. That's why hip-hop heads were angry at that time. It's because it just felt like, here's a brilliant artist who's invalidating everything he just came out with, right? And of course, he's brilliant. It's not going to be whack, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, the songs aren't, like, some of the songs were kind of whack, but I'm saying, like, the whole thing wasn't garbage. Of course there's some brilliant stuff. Like, it's Nas. Like, he had some brilliant producers and things like that, but he's not, getting to his full potential. He's not experiencing growth as a person, and that's the sad part, right? He's evolving, and you never want to see that, right? Anyway, I thought I'd add that. Peace.